Hello and welcome to this segment of Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Felicia Taylor, and joining me in studio is Nelson Smith with Renascence, Inc. And of course, you are the chairman of the board of trustees there, or their local board,
Yes,
so to say. Yes.
Of the board of directors.
Board of directors,
Yes,
that's it. Yes, sir. Well, it's so good to have you here. And of course, this organization is no mystery or secret to Montgomery, and I'm just excited to have you here. So we're going to get right into it. Mr. Smith, tell us exactly what Renascence is all about, because I know that name has significant meaning.
Renascence, the word itself means rebirth, and it's particularly significant when we think about every one of us in the world, every one of us in this community, whatever, at one time or another has needed some kind of a rebirth, a second chance. And what, in various ways that we live, you know, whether it's in our health or professional lives and so forth, we all need that, and we're gratified when we get that. Well, the people coming out of incarceration on parole and probation are looking for a second chance. Mm-hmm. How do I get out there and reintegrate back into society? And what our program, the history of our program, it was a notion of a core of people who were very passionate about touching these men and bringing them, you know, through reintegrating them back into society in a positive way, so that when they landed on the other side of that, they could actually be functional.
That's right.
And of value in the world. So finally, after the house was refurbished where they are now, in 2006, we began to take in these nonviolent male ex-offenders, and they are going through this program from 6 months to a year, highly structured so that they're not by themselves, but they've got a guideline and goals and so forth and support to help them get, when they finish the program, they can get out there and they are functional and viable in the community.
And they are able to self-sustain, and that's the most important thing. But
Yes,
let's talk a little bit about the ministry aspect of it, because we know that's so important. How do you, as a board member, and even those that are employed there, help these residents in the process of transitioning?
In the mornings, when they get up, they have a devotional. 6 o'clock, they gather around the table in the dining room there, and they have a devotional, and they have sort of a group discussion about whatever it was they read in the scriptures, and then they say the serenity prayer. The other thing is that when most of us are practicing Christians, and so the way that we go about our business and the way that we interact with these people and support these people is the way I think that Christ would want us to go about doing that, seeing it with our hearts. And how do we treat these people? Because I think that in a lot of cases, when people, they can tell you anything out of the Bible, they can give you scriptures and so forth, but the thing you got to do is live into that. And when they see the support that they're getting and the way that they're treated, and it's not necessarily that they're treated always easily. There's firmness, there's rigidity to the program, so that they can actually stand up and move out. And so I think that's the manner in which we can spiritually influence them, by being the positive influence, the face of Christ in who they see.
Firm, structured.
Yes.
If you don't do this, there are consequences.
That's exactly right.
But he did it out of love and kindness.
You know, when you think about his tearing up the temple, I mean, he wasn't just being destructive. He had a point to make.
Yeah.
Because these people weren't going where they were supposed to do. They had forgotten the objective. And so he had to do that stuff. And when he goes through his Sermon on the Mount, which is the greatest, you know, that lays out how we are supposed to conduct ourselves and how we interact with. It's a relational thing. And so how we relate with our residents in a respectful manner, in a firm manner, in a way that says, you got to stick with this. You know, you're going to stick with this.
Yes.
And so they they are built up, not torn down and affirmed, but on a path, because these fellows who come out of incarceration, many of them haven't made a decision in their lives for a long, long time. They don't know how to operate independently necessarily. And to give them responsibility, which they do get, and they got to go out and get jobs, and they have to come in with curfew. They got to sign in and out. They've got to participate in house chores. You know, so there's that collaborative, being held accountable aspect of this as well.
Absolutely, and it's almost like a daily structure that you and I have.
That's right.
They're not doing anything any different than what you and I would do in a run of a day.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's good. We want to talk about the impact that we need this to make on communities, because oftentimes communities are a little afraid.
Yes,
and
they are.
shy away when such programs exist. How do you pass that message on to the community and the surrounding area?
Well, I don't think we have flashing lights necessarily, but it's sort of more subtle ways. For one thing, the community benefits because you don't have to pay $16,092 a year for somebody going back into prison. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when we put out these men, they go out for their jobs. They show up ready to work, they've had a full night's rest, and they're drug-free. I mean, these people are showing up and they're doing good work. Sometimes we will use them in volunteer circumstances where they're helping out with a community support thing. And they're very diligent. I've had them help me, and I, of course, compensate back to the facility in helping us move things in you know, stuff that we can't handle. They'll come in and just get right after it. And what they do is display a positive attitude, and they connect with these people who are around them and develop trust with these people.
And trust is important. Not only is trust important for the community to trust that Renascence is doing what they are supposed to do, but the residents need to be able to trust those of us that volunteer, that work and do what have you, because
Exactly.
they're coming from a place of lack of trust.
Well, and that's an important thing. When they see somebody look at them as a real person, and not just as a thing or a convict or whatever, when they are affirmed of their self-value, you don't know how valuable that really is. And we've had people that want to come back and help me out, for example, or because when we have somebody help us out, we will always feed them. We will always, you know, provide for them, you know, so they're not just coming in there just and going through the motions. We want to make sure that we have a positive impact and a positive relationship that shows that they have value.
Absolutely, Mr. Smith. I know for me, I deal with women in transition, and we shared that a little bit earlier. For me, it affected my life in ways I never fathomed or imagined. How has it affected you being in the role that you're in? Because I'm sure it's not that you woke up one morning and said, hey, I want to do this.
Every one of us has a divine spark in us. And sometimes we have to go seek that. And I have to remember that in people who I interact with. You know, you may be somebody that I don't get along with, or I have a problem with, or whatever, but you still have that divine spark. And when I'm around these people and I hear them talk to me, and I hear them and I watch them do things, you know, I said, that's a real human being. You know, they matter, you know, because I want to matter.
Yes.
You know, in some cases there, but for the grace of God go I.
There go I.
So I can't put myself above them. I mean, we are in this thing together, and if we can make that person whole, and it makes me feel good, but it makes me think that when this guy gets out, he's going to be a productive, viable citizen of this country.
Any final thoughts or things that you'd even like to share before we wrap up this segment? Because again, the importance is knowing what you're doing and why you are doing it. It's purposed.
Treat people as you would want to be treated. You know, remember, we don't know what that person's story is, why they got there, the path they had to travel, and you came from a different path, but if we somehow can find common ground to relate to one another in a positive way and find the better nature of ourselves in each other and seek the better nature of ourselves in each other, things will get along a lot better. We will have these guys coming out of incarceration feeling like they can contribute, that they are whole, that they matter to somebody. And I just feel like in all of our interactions with people, and not just people like these, but other people who may be different than we are, or maybe disadvantaged, or whatever, you got to look at them as real whole people and engage them from that standpoint. And so I think that's what continuing to be around these group of people and treating them as viable, whole, worthwhile people. I want to be treated like that, and I think we can have a relationship, and I want to make it a positive relationship, and I want you to go out and be successful, be all you can be.
That's it. And the beauty of that is if we always keep in the mindset of what would Jesus do, and even in his word, he speaks of, did you go and visit them? Did you clothe them? Did you feed them?
Exactly.
And if we didn't, we've done it unto Christ.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly right. That's precisely correct.
Yeah. Well, I
So-
just want to thank you for being with us, and thank you for all that you do, even in the capacity that you do it in. And we just appreciate all the great work.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about Renascence and what you all do is in putting this word out and spreading this to our fellow man.
Very good. There we have it. And you all stay tuned, and we'll be right back with more of Joy in Our Town.